Welcome to this episode of the Multifamily Mindset Growthcast Deep Dive. We're going to start introducing these deep dive episodes every once in a while. We're going to throw them in. We're going to try to do a couple of them a month. But what the premise of these episodes are is we're going to take our most listened to episodes.
That's the word.
The most listened to episodes, and we're going to dissect them a little bit. So today we're going to talk a little bit about systems. And we're going to dive into some of the things that Dallas said in that episode. I wish I knew what episode number it was. Do you know what episode number it is?
22?
I think it is 22. Episode 22, systems. Dallas goes into systems, the importance of them, the importance of having a ritual, and things of that nature. So we're going to get into that a little bit today. But before we start that, Dallas has had quite a week. We've all been grinding. We've all been doing a lot of things to help build this company, help build something special that Dallas has in the works. We don't want to give away too much of what we got going on, but Dallas has been busting his rear end, preparing some really incredible content and some incredible products for everybody to really take advantage of the Growthcast. Not only the Growthcast, but the Multifamily Mindset Growth Guide. Do you want to give a little? Don't give up too much of what we got going on, but you want to give a little sneak peek?
For sure, I'll give a little sneak peek, and this actually bleeds into a drip that's coming up this next week too.
Oh, nice,
so,
sweet.
Long story short, I came into the office. Recording has been somewhat of a challenge because we have grown so much within the company. We've ran out of space.
Right.
And my home has children in it, and they're busy, and my wife's busy. And I just don't feel good as a father kicking my family out of the home. So I set up my day to be able to come in here and record. And I did. Came in, kicked butt, took names. It was awesome. Great night.
It was even a late night too.
Yeah.
It was like after everybody had left the office.
And just absolutely slayed content.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was super productive.
And then I get a phone call from Dal around, what was it, 8:39?
Dude, yeah, it was like 8:30.
Yeah, 8:30.
Yeah.
At night, I get a phone call from Dallas. Of course, I answer because Dallas is my boy. And Dallas has
when else would I mean, I don't call you at 8:30 at night.
No. Dude,
I'm usually getting in bed, FYI, because my routine is set.
Yeah. So you call me. What'd you say?
I said some words that I don't typically say. And I don't even remember the exactness of it, but I was on the verge of tears for sure. Yeah. I mean, legitimately, and I'm rarely on the verge of tears, but I was legitimately on the verge of tears because of all the hard work that had went into the night. Because U92, the radio station, I keep saying U92. I don't know what radio station it was, but there was a disc jockey. His voice was very distinct in the entire every audio that I had recorded. It picked up the radio station. So
what had happened is with the recording equipment that we have, for some reason, every once in a while it will just pick up this radio station. I don't know if it's the office space that we're in right now.
And how stupid it's the same radio station every time.
So Dallas busts through this 4 or 5 hours of recording just to have to throw it all away. Because there was this radio station playing in the background through all of the content that he created and all the recordings that he did. And he calls me. He's pretty upset. By the end of the phone call, though, what do we decide?
Yeah, dude, I caught myself in the act of error-ridden thinking, and I remembered distinctly catching myself.
Yeah.
This is a skill set that I've built up over the course of time and all the knowledge that I've worked to acquire, and effort seemed to be fruitless. For a brief moment, I was pissed. I thought it was all for naught. And then I said, you know what, Jax? It wasn't, because it made me better. It gave me an opportunity to practice my skill set of, recording in front of a video camera, which doesn't always come natural for me. Nope. And I said, you know what? We're just going to be better for it. And it also gave us an opportunity to problem solve the radio situation long before it ever arises with our recordings and safeguard ourselves. And if you listen closely, you can't hear the radio in the background.
Not on this one.
So a problem was solved.
Yes,
so
definitely.
Utilize that opportunity to follow my own advice and view effort as the pathway to mastery, no matter the result.
It was pretty crazy in the length of our 15-minute phone call. Dallas was close to tears. We were laughing towards the end of the call, because when you implement these things that Dallas teaches about, like one of the recent episodes was flip it. He very quickly turned such a terrible thing that had happened. It was honestly
horrible, man.
It wasted a lot of your time you could have been spent obviously recording material, but time you could have spent with your family as well. It was just it was just a few hours of wasted time, and those hours and that time so precious right now that it was frustrating. But by the end of our conversation, Dallas had taught himself. I was just listening and letting Dallas walk through it. That it really did end up benefiting you.
Yeah, and you know, I know this deep dives about systems, and we're going to jump in there.
Yeah,
but I think it's important to just point out that, you know, we always talk about the majority, and I think the majority gets stuck in that problem right there and let it linger and talk about it and give power to it and talk about it and reference it and give power to it for a lot longer than 24 hours. Some people let those things sit and fester, and it's just like any other, you know, wound. It's just like any other wound.
Yeah.
It'll sit if you let it fester and don't take care of it, meaning like sometimes just cut it off at the head. It just gets worse and worse, dude, and it lingers, and it has a direct impact on just misery. And
that was on Wednesday that happened?
Yeah, it was on Wednesday.
How was yesterday?
Dude, plowed through the content, got double the content completed, and I know that I got double the content recorded and completed because the night prior I was able to practice and weed out some of the things that I would have had to have problem solved the next day.
See, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible that you were able to point out those positive things that came from something that was so frustrating to you. So kudos, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I know how frustrating that could be. You get a whole bunch of work done just for it to be nothing. So kudos to you, dude, for flipping it and making it a positive experience.
Yeah, it's like Tyler says, right? Give power to the solution.
Yeah,
and you're not going to give power. You're not going to give power to the solution by complaining about the problem
100%.
After it's happened.
100%.
For sure.
Thanks for sharing that, Dal. I know that it's still pretty close to the surface.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It was a frustrating evening, but we bounced back, or you
dude.
Bounced back rather.
Direction is forward, not backward, right?
Exactly.
You just move forward.
Exactly. Thanks for sharing that, Dal. Appreciate it, man. So, like we said, deep dive. We're going to usually do these deep dive, extended cuts, whatever you want to call them, a couple times a month. And this week, we're going to focus in on systems. The systems episode, we believe it's episode 22. If you want to go back and give it a listen, it's a great episode. Dallas dropped some truth bombs in that one. But I pulled out a couple of things that I wanted to ask Dallas about that he can maybe dive a little bit deeper into and give a little bit better of an explanation. So now Dallas is in the hot seat.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask him about some of these things that he taught and some of these things that he said and let him explain himself just a little bit further so we can dive deeper into this content. One of the first things at the very beginning of the podcast, Dallas talks about how oftentimes we're blinded by ambition. Oftentimes we're moving so fast and we're trying to get so many things done, and we have these things that we want to get done that we don't put in place necessarily systems, and we just are hustling, going, grinding. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that, Dal. What did you mean when you said blinded by ambition?
So oftentimes we bite off way more than we can chew.
Yeah.
For sure. Our eyes get big, and, you know, big goals sound exciting and they're motivating and they're inspiring. But what I mean by that particular comment is that motivation and inspiration, at some point they peter out.
Yeah.
And when they peter out, where do you have to go to? Right? You could go to another YouTube clip of some awesome guru.
Yeah.
And grab more motivation and inspiration. But dude, eventually you hit a wall.
Uh-huh.
And when you hit that wall, the only thing you have to fall back on are the things that you do consistently. And when I said that, that's what I meant is true growth, like sustained growth, because that's the key is we want to grow in a sustained pattern, right? Not something that's like peak and then this huge valley and then a small peak and then this huge valley, right? If we can continue to just kind of keep that sustained process, you know, moving forward, our daily actions are what are ultimately going to be able to allow us to do that. And it doesn't sound as sexy, right? Like it doesn't sound as sexy to just wake up, get to work, give power to your systems, develop the right systems, and keep giving power to those systems, those daily actions, those smaller bites.
Right.
But that really is the key to success, right? Like if I want to run a marathon, 26 point whatever miles a marathon is, shows you I've never ran a marathon.
I think it's 26.2. Goes to show you that I don't know how I know that.
Yeah, Jackson of all the people, right? Like he's the marathoner. But no, but if I want to run a marathon, right, like I don't just wake up and go, awesome, I'm going to run 15 miles this week.
Yeah.
And then next week I'm going to run 17. No, if you haven't ever run a marathon before, you need to become a runner.
Right.
And runners run every single day, like a mile.
Yeah.
That's running to the neighbor's house and back would be a good start, and then do the exact same thing the next day and start small.
Yeah.
Right? That's the key to sustained growth.
Gotcha. No, I love that. I love that analogy that you pulled with the running, right? If you jump out there and you run 15 miles, you say you want to run a marathon, the very next day you're out early in the morning and you run even 7 miles or 10 miles or 15 miles, however you decide to take this big chunk, the chances of you going to run the next day, very slim.
Dude, and I'm probably jumping the gun here with the question that you're coming at, but I want to throw this out there.
Yeah.
If you want to run a marathon, we're going to keep using that example because it's just a really simple example that everybody can comprehend, right? If you want to run a marathon, right, the real thing that you're wanting to do is you want to become a runner, because only runners run marathons. Right? Like Billy, my next door neighbor, who's sitting on his back porch every night sipping his 32-ounce Pepsi, he doesn't run a marathon.
No.
The guy who never works out. Right? The people who run marathons are people who run every single day.
Right.
So rather than say, I want to run 26.2 miles and sit and focus on that and get super ambitious, why not just focus on becoming a person who runs every single day and then see what happens?
I love that, dude. I love that. I love that explanation for sure. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about was when we placed our aim on becoming rather than being a specific someone, only then we can experience joy in the now while working to build a better future. That's something you said in the podcast systems, right? I'm going to read it one more time. When we place our aim on becoming rather than being a specific someone, only then can we experience joy in the now while working to build a better future.
Yeah.
I want to dive into that a little bit more.
Let's see if I can simplify this. I'm all about simplification so people can better understand.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes I get a little wordy.
Yeah.
I like words.
Good. You're good.
I'm an intellect. I like words.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between going out every single day and working hard to prove yourself. Right? When we work hard to prove ourselves, when we have something to prove, that means that there's some type of egotistical factor. And ego will be to our demise. Ego is our enemy. Ego is a magnet for errors. It's a magnet for enemies, right? Now, the best way to wake up and go about your business is to go about improving yourself, right? And keeping your focus on improvement, whereas there is no comparison to what somebody else is doing or boasting your ego, right? Improvement, you're in competition with who? You.
Yep.
When you are focused on improving, you're looking in a mirror and you're in competition with that person you see looking back at you. And that is important for self-improvement. That's important for growth because, again, comparison is the thief of joy. And we shouldn't strive every day to go out and prove something. There's really nothing to prove.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah. So when you say when we place our aim on becoming rather than being a specific person or specific someone, you're ultimately comparing yourself to this future person you want to be.
For sure. I mean, reflection is a powerful tool.
Yeah.
And for me, one thing that I do consistently is for me, it's every week.
Yeah.
I can only speak for myself. Some people do this differently, but for me, every single week, I try to envision who Dallas is a week from now, right? What does he look like? I mean, a good start would be to say, who is Dallas 1 year from now?
Right.
Envision that. Get a picture of that. Make a mental, depiction of who that person is, and then go out and improve yourself so that you can meet up with that person a year from now. Don't go out and prove yourself against everybody else and everything else that's happening in the world and all the accomplishments that people are stockpiling. Because at the end of the day, those things don't matter. They do not have a direct impact on your happiness, your success, your fulfillment.
But what does?
Your daily actions, right? The things that you do.
The systems
that you implement the things that you give power to, not just mental power to, but the things that you actually give power to via action every single day. What are you doing?
Right. Dude, thank you for explaining that one, because I listened to it a couple times and I was trying to pull out as much as I could from it, but your explanation of it really helped me understand that it's not necessarily about attaining the goal. It's about getting to the goal.
Yeah.
And watching yourself improve to become the person you want to be.
For sure, because let's face it, man. A lot of people who are listening, myself included, you included, how many goals have you set that you didn't reach?
Plenty.
Tons.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably way too many. It's like embarrassing, actually.
I mean, let's be honest. I've set a lot of goals that I've never met within the time frame that I set.
Right.
Right? And that's okay.
Right.
Right? What's more important than attaining the goal, which, don't get me wrong, attaining the goal is, I mean, that's what we're working towards. I'm not taking away from that, right? And acting like it's okay.
Right.
But what's more important is setting that North Star so we have a direction to head. That's what a goal, that's the purpose of a goal, is so that we know where that next best version of ourselves is and we can start moving in the right direction. And then, when that time frame set, that specific measurable component, April 1st, we can look back and say, okay, yes, I reached my goal. I surpassed my goal. Sweet. Or I can look back and say, I didn't reach my goal, but where am I at now?
Right.
How much closer am I? And it's time to readjust and set the bar again.
Yeah. Dude, I love that, dude. Thank you so much for diving into that. That's great. Next thing that I wanted to bring up to you.
Yeah.
With you. The only way we can continually change our identity and inch closer to our desired target or goal is to give power to our daily systems.
Yeah.
So that's something that I pulled out of that episode as well. When you say give power to our daily systems, what do you mean by give power? How do you? So I guess the question is how. How do you give power to your daily systems?
Yeah. I become a master of my routine.
Okay.
What does
that look like?
So, it depends on what my goal is.
Okay.
Right. Let's look at the marathoner again.
Yeah.
Right. My goal is to run a 26.2 mile run. Right. And compete. If I want to give power to my daily systems, right? Again, I've got to run every single day, whether I feel like it or I don't. And I have to take my emotions out of it, right? Like we are or we become what we repeatedly do, or we are what we repeatedly do. And my point in bringing all of this up is I've worked with a lot of individuals over the course of time, and they trick themselves. They talk themselves into believing. The brain's a tricky thing, right? Like neurologically, its job is to keep us safe. Again, ego kind of comes into the equation where you want to protect yourself. The brain wants to protect you, and that's why you think a certain way. And if we're not careful, we'll trick ourselves into believing that we are maybe better in a certain area than what we actually are. And honesty kind of fiddles away. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For systems, right, giving power to our daily systems, I try to just remove all emotions and look at it as data. What am I repeatedly doing? Look at that data and make adjustments accordingly, and not judge myself. That's a key piece. Is I don't sit and judge myself every day. If I didn't deliver on the actions that were necessary for me to run a 26.2, mile run,
right?
I don't say, Dallas, you're a loser, dude. Why don't you do better today? That's not a conversation I have with myself.
No,
because what type of results are going to yield from that type of conversation?
Only negative ones.
Only negative, and it's going to get me further away from achieving the goal.
Exactly. So when you say give power to your systems, there was something that you said that I wanted to touch base on. Collecting data.
Yeah.
How do you go about collecting data? How do you go? I know journaling's big.
So I think people are too subjective.
Okay.
All right. Subjectivity. I think people I know because I've worked with people and I've watched them go through their daily systems and their daily processes. And one of the key components that's not a part of many people's systems is data compilation, right? At its simplest form, which would be a journal.
Yeah.
The growth guide.
Yeah.
Right? A habit tracker component. So for me, rather than be subjective and lay my head on my pillow at night and look at my day through the lens of just strictly my mind and say, Dallas, did you have a good day today? And again, the brain's job is to protect me. So the brain says, dude, you did a good job. And I'm like, sweet, Dallas, good job, go to bed. I'm tired. I must have done a really good job.
Yeah.
It's like, did I really do a good job? The only way to know that I really did a good job in terms of my systems, the actions that I'm supposed to be delivering on, is to have a place where it's tracked.
Yeah.
And for me, it just simply looks like a check mark or an X next to that particular action that I know I need to deliver on in order to achieve my goal of becoming a runner.
Yeah.
Running a marathon of 26.2 miles.
Yeah, dude. I've seen that in my life.
Yeah.
Since I've really started journaling and really started putting that system into my life, dude, it's so much easier to pat yourself on the back and say good job.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we're all running around doing so many things, being so busy and crazy that sometimes, dude, I'd get home and be like, what did I even accomplish today?
Yeah.
I'm so dead tired, but what did I get done? But when you stop and realize and think and write those things down, you look at your growth guide or your planner or whatever you have, and you give yourself that pat on the back of all of the data that you compiled and all the things that you got done that day. And might I add that when you do that, it's so much easier to roll that momentum into the next day.
For sure. It's so much easier to build on things. You know, you said the word busy, and that's a misconception that people have. And again, the brain tricks them into thinking that they've made progress because they've been busy.
Right.
There's a huge difference between being busy and being productive.
We talk about this often.
Productiveness will yield powerful results in terms of progress, but busyness doesn't equate to progress.
No.
Busyness equates to anxiousness and nervousness and confusion and some other things.
Yeah. So giving power to your daily systems that means collect the data. That means write the things down that you're going to do. Check the boxes off.
For sure.
And ultimately collect data, and that's how you give power to your systems. By tracking them.
Yeah, I love lists, dude.
Yeah.
I create lists for everything.
Me too.
Right? Like I'm compiling content for a project.
Yeah.
Right? That's all I'll say. And dude, I use a list every single day to keep myself honest with where I'm at, and I'm not subjective about the progress that I'm making. I know exactly where I'm at. In fact, to take it a step further, I've adopted accountability partner. His name is Jackson Campbell.
Ew.
Yeah, and what do I do, Jackson? Every single day.
Yep.
Not because you've asked me, what do I do?
You text me what you've got done?
My list.
You text me what you've got done, what still needs to be done, and what's on tap for the morning.
Now, I don't need to text that to Jackson.
Nope.
Right? But again, if I don't proactively seek someone to serve that accountability role, right, there's a possibility that that's my ego stepping in saying you don't need help from people.
That's a good point.
I mean, again, ego's an enemy for errors and, a magnet for enemies. And I just don't have room for that. Humility is a factor in that progress. And for me, that's a way for me to humble myself at the end of the day as well, right? And that's a part of my system, and that's power that I want to give to a specific characteristic that I hope to cultivate every single day. I don't want to be an egotistical person. So that's one simple, easy, powerful way that I can keep myself humble while I progress and become better is to understand that, dude, on my own, I can't do this. I never would be able to do anything great on my own.
No.
So Jackson's my accountability partner, and not because he willingly spoke up and said, dude, send me your lists and you need to tell me everything you're doing.
I need to keep track of you. No.
Yeah.
It's never been that. No. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dal. Next bullet point. This is going to be the last one.
Cool.
We might get off onto a little bit of a tangent on this one because it's deep, but it's important. Then I really wanted to pull some action items out of this one.
Cool.
So keep that in mind as I read this to you.
Alrighty.
What habits can you? So this is something again this is at the very end of episode 22 systems. Okay. You say, what habits can you start to feed in your life to help you inch closer to your desired target? What rituals and routines can be implemented, and what ones should be weeded out?
Cool.
So I want to hammer down on some actionable items here.
Sweet.
What rituals and routines can be implemented, and what ones should be weeded out?
Awesome.
So before you start going in, I want to hear some very basic rituals and routines
Cool.
that everybody can implement to obviously inch closer to their goal. And maybe
I'll give one overarching for anyone, period.
Yeah.
And this is a mental skill, right? Words are powerful. The questions we ask ourselves are very powerful. One, you just read the tail end of a drip, which was the mental notes. And I just want everybody to be clear that when we send those mental notes out via the daily drip at the end of every episode, sometimes they come in the form of a reminder, and sometimes they come, and oftentimes they come in the form of a question. And the reason is we know that better questions equal better results. The conversation that we have with ourselves every single day is the most important conversation for me.
Yeah.
Right? I can only think of one other conversation that I have every single day that's more powerful than the one that I have between my own ears, and that's the one I have with my higher power. That's the only conversation that supersedes the conversation that I have with myself. I love our conversations. Yeah. It is not as important as the conversation that I have with myself.
No way.
Right?
Who talks to you more than anybody?
You.
Yourself.
Period.
For sure. So the first ritual that you're going to bring up that we can all be implementing is to be very cautious of the conversation that you have between your own ears.
For sure. And something that's extremely powerful is when you have a negative thought, let it just stay there.
Yeah.
Don't verbalize it. You don't have to speak it out loud. And I'm not going to go into the statistics of negative talk here because it's not the place nor the time. But I can guarantee you that you will give that negative thought much more power if you verbalize it out loud. But what I was going to say as far as what systems, right, what habits, rituals, and routines can you implement that's going to inch you closer to your goal starting right now. And there's one that no matter the goal, everyone can implement, and it will have an extreme amount of power in terms of progress that they will make. And that is this. And it boils down to, again, a question. And the question is this: when you engage in a behavior, no matter the behavior, trigger the question, does this serve me and make me better? Period. If the answer is no, then you weed it out. You stop. If the answer is yes, you feed the crap out of that habit.
Yeah.
You feed the crap out of that action, right? And obviously with time, you'll be able to build a routine around more specific behaviors that are ultimately feeding your individual unique goal. But when I sit down to watch a show on TV, which rarely happens, I would be lying if I said it never happens, because sometimes it actually serves me.
For sure.
I need a break. I need a mental break. I need to relax with my wife and have some alone time where we laugh. And yeah, we might lay down on the couch for 20 minutes and watch an episode of Parks and Rec. Mind you, I've never watched that show in my life. I don't know why that show popped into my head. Maybe I just like Chris Pratt. But yeah, sometimes that serves me. But there's a lot of times when people sit down to watch a show and veg out on the couch, and it has absolutely no value in terms of them achieving their goals. If anything, it detracts from their overall quality of life.
If there's no value, if there's no positive value to it, that only means there's negative value to it.
And
because you're either wasting time.
And dude, I view behavior as either positive or negative.
Yep.
Right? Habits is positive or negative, and there's no neutral.
No.
But there are a crap ton of people out there that view certain behaviors like watching TV as just like a neutral behavior.
Yeah.
And that is false. That is not true.
Yep. In growth, I like to think of that there's no such thing as plateauing. You're either going up or you're going down.
For sure.
Something I learned quite a long time ago is that when you're growing and as you're doing better, you're either going up or you're going down, but you're never plateauing.
For sure, man.
There's no such thing.
I think of it as a car. I mean, I've got the same exact analogy, and that's a visualization piece that I always go to. You know, I'm either in drive or I'm in reverse, but like there is no neutral when it comes to progress.
Yeah.
You're either moving backwards or you're moving forwards.
Either going up or going down.
For me, the mental skill, the habit that I have cultivated that has literally served me it's been a game changer, man, is literally that one simple, easy, powerful question of, is this serving me and making me better? When I get into a discourse with my 8-year-old about not making her bed, before I light her up, which I wouldn't say never happens because I'm human, But dude, as we move into that conversation, early on in that conversation, I catch myself in the act of error-ridden thinking, and I ask myself, Dallas, is this conversation serving you and making you better? Is this serving your daughter and making her better? If the answer is no, then I cut it off at the head and I move to better, more right action. And if I don't know what the better or more right action is, then I disengage and I go for a walk. Because I would hate to just continue to deliver on a horrible behavior out of anger and ego and everything else. Sometimes the best decision and the best habit is to just time and space. Give time and space.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Dal.
Yeah.
No, I've really enjoyed doing this episode, and I think we're going to do a lot more of them. Because we got some really good golden nuggets out of this and some actionable items. Thank you all for tuning in. Dallas, thank you for always dropping some great knowledge for us that we can all grow. We can all continue to do better. Give power to our systems. If you haven't listened to episode 22, Giving Power, or Systems is what it's called, go back and listen to it, and then listen to this, and then listen to this one.
Hey, and in addition, we would love to hear from you on any drips that you would like us to dive deeper into. We're going to obviously identify those drips per the data and what it's saying to us based off downloads and listens. But we would love to hear from individuals who have a specific need, right?
100%.
If there's something that resonated with you and you have a need right now in your own current endeavors, reach out to us and say, hey, man, we want to hear more about this particular drip.
And we'd love to do it.
Yeah, for sure. This has been fun, dude.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate your support, your love. If you haven't shared this with anybody, please do. I'm more concerned about more people hearing this than I am about getting our ratings up. Please share this with people. The whole reason why Dallas has taken the time to create this podcast is to help people grow. So if you haven't shared this with anybody, please share it with someone that you think it could benefit. Again, thank you all. If you haven't shared, please share. Give us a rate. Give us a review wherever you are listening. Dallas, any last words?
Just appreciate you guys and appreciate Jax. He's the man. He does so much work behind the scenes that you all do not see, and I want to publicly tell him that I really appreciate the man and all that he does.
Thank you, brother. So appreciate that. Have a great rest of your weekend, you guys, or gals. If you're listening to this Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whenever you're listening to it, have a great rest of your day. We love you. Take care.